a golf ball, 1004. Look, just for the record, I was told this was a 1,000-yard golf ball challenge.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I don't appreciate the bait and switch, but I'm gonna let it ride.
Technicalities.
Ready, Tim?
Adjustments or not?
Ready. So who knows what that is? All right, we'll get into that in just a few minutes. So, hey guys, it's HarleyWood. Welcome back. I had the pleasure last weekend of going to Barber Creek Shooting School. Now, maybe 6 or 8 weeks prior, a buddy of mine's wife reached out to me and another buddy and said, hey, John's birthday's coming up. Do you guys want to go to Barber Creek Shooting School with him? Obviously, we had to pay our own way, but she said he really wants to go. Like myself, he's a big game hunter. He has some stuff coming up where they're going to Montana, and so she bought this for him for her birthday, and I was like, absolutely. I had actually heard about Barber Creek through a subscriber on Instagram of mine. He and I talk all the time about long-range shooting, and he had expressed an interest in going there. Well, it's only 3 hours from me, and this guy that I'm talking about lives on the West Coast, so it's a long ways for him. It was an awesome experience. Like, I can't stress enough how cool this was. So the school is in Eufaula, Alabama, E-U-F-A-L-A, Alabama, and it's on a couple thousand acres. The guy who owns it is also a big game hunter. He travels all over the world, and it's got tons of cool mounts. You'll see some of that as I roll in footage here in a few minutes. But the course was taught by a guy named James Eagleman. He was in the Army for 26 years. He was a first sergeant and a sniper for decades with the Army. This guy knows his stuff. He is the real deal. I'm not gonna give you all the secrets of the course because honestly, I think you guys should go experience it, but I do want you to know what to expect when you go to Barber Creek, okay? I really didn't know. I mean, they've got a few videos on YouTube. Not a few, they've got several videos on YouTube. But in terms of the campus, I really had no context. I didn't know what to expect when we went there. I didn't know what the lodging was gonna be like or any of that stuff. So I'm gonna show you some of that stuff in this video. And I also have one takeaway at the end of this video that is probably the most important thing I learned about long-range shooting. And I've been to a couple long-range courses, including out at Gunsight Academy twice. Now, in all fairness, they were condensed courses. They weren't like the full week long. And so, I don't know, this is pretty fundamental. We probably should have covered it at Gunsight, but we didn't, and so I'm gonna get to that. So let's talk about the campus real quick. When you arrive, you will come down, sorry, it's early morning, I'm drinking my coffee. You will come down this long, winding kind of dirt road, and it then opens up into a bunch of farm plots, all right? So I think the first one's like a big cotton field, and then where the shooting range is actually peanut fields and stuff like that. So it's a big farm, thousands of acres. When it first opens up, you'll drive up and the first building on your left is kind of their office and their pro shop. So there's all kinds of stuff in there that, you know, if you want to spend money, it'll be very, very easy to do so. And then next to that is what was the old farmhouse. Now it has been completely renovated on the inside. The outside still looks very, very rustic. Really, really cool experience. It's got a beautiful wraparound porch, and honestly, that's probably where we spent most of our time is. And here's a tip. Bring a cooler in your truck with some beer, and after the course, you know, in the evening when you're waiting for dinner to be cooked, you can grab a few beers and sit on that porch with your friends. But got this beautiful wraparound porch. You go inside, well, you go down this hallway in the middle, and there's a mess hall on your left, which is like an old rustic kitchen with all these mounts on the inside. There is an amazing woman in there. Her name is Mary. She cooked us breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day, home-cooked meals. I mean, I'm talking steak and eggs and bacon and sausage and, you know, all that good down-home cooking. And if you go down that hallway and you go to the right, you actually go into what was historically that farmhouse. Inside there is some of the lodging accommodations. It's not the rooms that I stayed in, but I've got some video footage here that you'll get to see. And the first room on the right when you come in is actually just like a lounge. There's a bunch of leather sofas in there. There's a TV. It's just a hangout room. So we arrived on a Friday, all right? If you do the weekend course, you can arrive on a Friday and then you leave out end of day Sunday. And so we arrived on Friday. We hung around for a little while. We had a few beers. We got dinner, and then we were hanging out on that front porch, and again, Friday night, the course doesn't start officially till Saturday morning. A bunch of the guys who worked there came up to us and said, hey, we're down on the range. There's a trap range down here. So if you're familiar with skeet and trap, there's a trap range down here, and a bunch of us are down there shooting clays. Do you guys want to come? And I was like, well, we don't have shotguns, you know, like, and they were like, we got you. We got everything you need. And so we jumped in the trucks, we drove down there, and it's probably, I don't know, half a mile to a mile down to the range. And sure enough, awesome facility for trap. Like, they've got well lit, they've got a house there that they've built, and they've got all the trap lines. I'm not a trap shooter, so I don't know what all that stuff's called. So for the next about 2 hours, we burned hundreds of shells of their ammunition. They let us use their guns. It was a blast. We played Oakley, which is this game where you guys all line up and the trap flies and first person takes a shot. If he or she misses, second person has to immediately follow up, and the clay is getting progressively further and further out. So 4 people out of it was fun. It was tons of fun. And just if you think about it, how nice was it of them? They didn't have to do that, right? They didn't have to come up to us back at the camp and invite us down there to something that we hadn't paid for, we weren't prepared for, right? We didn't have our own shells or anything like that. So it just kind of speaks to the caliber of people. All right, let's talk about the classroom and the actual course, all right? So Saturday morning, you wake up, 8 a.m. is breakfast. Again, it's eggs and bacon and sausage and grits and, you know, all that good stuff. At 9 o'clock, you're in the classroom, all right? And you're gonna spend about the first 3 hours of both Saturday and Sunday in the classroom, where James is taking you over. You know, there's some fundamental stuff. If you are completely new to shooting, it's going to be incredibly helpful, especially if you're new to long range shooting. For me, some of it was a repeat of things that I already know, but there was a lot of stuff that he went into detail on, especially day 2, that I had no idea about, right? So he'll talk to you about ballistic coefficient and all kinds of stuff. And then around noon, you will go to lunch. Again, home-cooked lunch. So I think day 1 was actually sandwiches that Miss Mary had made. And then at about 1 o'clock, you go to the shoot house. Now the shoot house is badass, right? It's this 2-story building. It's got 5 bays, so there's 5 windows in the front. And when I first drove up, I'll roll in a video of it here, you could see all the barrels with the suppressors sticking out the windows, so it was kind of cool. Now that building is air conditioned, so I was there in June of 2023 in southern Alabama, so it can be hot. It wasn't that bad, honestly, but that building and the room that you guys are all in is air conditioned, so that makes it nice. Now the windows are open, so the shooter tends to get a little bit of warmth, you know, coming in through the windows, but there was 10 of us there, 5 get on the shooting line, and then 5 spot for them. And then James is also back here and spotting and helping to call wind and stuff like that.
It's about 20 degrees.
Do a headshot.
Spotters, wind's about 20 degrees left to right. See that? So 2 mile an hour and not quite 50, not quite 3/4, so just stick with that 3/4 left. It ain't much.
Ready?
Nice.
I'm coming up with 796.
You're over
The
it.
ram itself?
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta be bouncing.
732.
The brown ram.
17.75.
It's on the right hand side of the range, not the left. If you got
Shooter ready?
To the right. I was shooting right at the. Yeah.
Just a little further.
Ready?
Oh,
hold on.
Check the level.
it might be a bad round, but just check it anyway.
What's the wind?
What's the width? Yeah.
You're on the Gims book.
Yep.
You got 50 degrees, 40 degrees. Go a minute right. Go a minute and a quarter right wind.
Shooter ready? Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
I shot at the ram.
I was gonna say.
I was like, wait a minute. You just gotta pick it.
Yeah.
We hit it, but
That warden's gonna pull. Yeah.
The game warden's after you.
So at first there's this flipper at about, I don't know, 444 yards or something like that, 445. And he has everybody shoot that white flipper just so everybody, he can gauge that you know how to look through a scope, basically, I think is what he's getting at. And then you progressively work out from there. So there's all these life-size steel targets that go from, I think it's 5 something. I'll roll in some footage here and you'll see the distances, all the way out to 1,001 yards. There's a big life-size elk out at 1,001 yards. And all of them have the vital zone. So there's this big white flipper, you know, on the steel that when you hit, it flips and white paint sprays, and you know you've hit the vitals on one of those animals. And again, they're full size. So once you work out to that elk, then he moves you over, and right under the 1,000 yard, it's actually 1,004, there are some of those clay pigeons sitting on the ground, all right, some from the trap range. And they're at 1,004 yards. He's teaching you how to look at the mirage and how to read the wind. He's helping you understand the wind. He's helping make sure you have the fundamentals down, that you've got your parallax set correctly, that your eyepiece is focused correctly. And again, when you're moving through those steel targets, if you're not changing your parallax, there's potential issues, right? So there's a lot of fundamentals that he helps to kind of drive in and try to become muscle memory. And so then at the 1,004 yards, everybody's trying to hit those 3.5-inch clay targets.
Think about this.
1,004
yards. Here for 1.5 seconds. You got to get the wind right. When it changes during mid-flight, it's going to push or pull, right? So give me 1 second. Okay, go about 1.25 minutes right wind.
1.25 minutes. All right.
Push right. Now it's slowing down a little bit, go 1 minute right.
Shooter ready.
Minute.
Good wind.
Nice.
There you go.
Nice. Ready?
And honestly, it took some of us quite a while to get those. A lot of the guys in that class had never shot out that far. I've only shot that far twice, all right? Well, multiple times, but on 2 occasions. I shot out at gun sight to 1,000 yards the first time I went, and the second time I went, I shot out to 1,440. But at gun sight, they weren't really embedding the fundamentals in me. Again, in all fairness, it was a compressed course, okay? So maybe the full one is different. But they weren't teaching me how to read the wind. And the spotter was calling it. He was helping me with my come-ups. He was helping me understand, or he was calling my wind for me, so my holds. At Barber Creek, he's teaching you how to do that yourself, all right? So he's helping you understand the direction of the mirage and the angle of the mirage, and if there's the sparkles in the mirage and what all of those things mean. I had never done any of that stuff before. And I went on a Montana elk hunting trip back in 2017, I think it was. And it was day 3 or 4. I'm up on this hill, and at 796 yards, I saw an elk pushing a cow up the side of this mountain. And I had ranged it, and I had a 300 Win Mag with me, but I had never been to gun sight even at that point. And I just told myself, I can't shoot 800 yards. Like, that's a big animal, but there's no way I'm shooting 800 yards out there. And so I didn't. And I ended up getting an elk on that trip, but the one that I had to pass up was much bigger than the one that I ended up getting because I couldn't shoot to those distances. After taking this course, there is no way I would let that animal walk now. I am so comfortable shooting out to 800. It's funny because by the end of the thing, everybody was kind of joking that 1,000 yards is a chip shot. And if you had told me that prior, even after having been to gun sight, you know, I would have kind of laughed at you. But it really isn't. We were shooting 6.5 Creedmoor, by the way. It really isn't that far when you understand the fundamentals of shooting and how to hold your wind and what your rifle setup needs to be. And I'm going to get to that in a minute. That's one of the key takeaways. So day 2. Day 2 is pretty similar. So you you go to breakfast in the morning with Miss Mary. She's fantastic. And then you go to the classroom. Again, the classrooms are well air conditioned. I've rolled in some footage here. And he takes you for another couple hours on day 2 into a deeper dive. And here's where you really start to try to understand wind and what that mirage is doing and how to read that mirage. He talks about where to read the wind, all right? I always thought you try to read the wind at the target, and a lot of people read the wind at what we call at us or at the gun, and that's not correct, right? A lot of people get those wind meters and they read them right at, well, if I'm shooting at 1,000 yards, the chance that that wind is doing the same thing at 1,000 yards as what it's doing in my little wind meter here is very slim, right? So he teaches you to read the wind at about 60% of the distance, which is max ord, okay? That's the peak of the bullet's travel path. And it is where the bullet is most influenced by wind. And I would have never known that, never. So he teaches you in the spotting scope to focus on the target and then back focus, which means pull the focus back to where max ord approximately is and read the wind there. Who knew? The second half of Sunday, when you get to the shoot house, you start with the golf ball. Now, here's mine. So obviously, you know how this worked out for me. There were 10 guys in the class, and he had told us on average only 1 or 2 guys are able to connect with the golf ball. So I was in the spotting group first, and there was a row of shooters in front of us. There was 4 in my group of friends that had gone, and then there were 6 other guys. One of my buddies, in fact, John, whose birthday present this was, hit that golf ball on, I think, his, 30th shot or something like that. Some guys burned 3 boxes of ammunition, 60 rounds, and never hit it. So John got it on, his 28th, 29th, 30th shot, something like that. And very exciting. Everybody was hyped about it. Then we switched, and I came up to the shooting line. I ended up hitting this thing on my 21st shot, all right? In fact, in the video footage, you can see the steel. When I hold this ball up, you can see the steel all behind it has all these pock marks from where I was hitting all over this thing. And the guys were even making comments. They're like, I can't believe you're not hitting this thing. It looked like I had taken buckshot up against the target all around the golf ball, right? There's a steel target behind it. I was all over it. It was just a matter of time. Now, we had some pretty decent wind to deal with on that day. It was anywhere from 3 miles an hour up to 6 to 7 miles an hour. Now, again, depending on the angle of the wind, you may not be dealing with a full 7 miles an hour. For example, if it's blowing towards you, it's different than if it's blowing from, 3 to 9, right? The influence on the projectile is a little bit different. So understanding all that stuff is super challenging. But then finally on that 21st shot, well, here you go.
It's a little tough without good sunshine, but my guess is it's about 60 to 70 degrees between a 6 and 7 mile an hour wind. But it's 3/4 value. So you're probably close to a 5 mile an hour effective wind at this point, but we'll figure that out in a minute. Which means instead of 2 minutes of wind like your rangefinder's done, it's probably 2.5.
On the golf ball, 1,004. Look, just for the record, I was told this is a 1,000-yard golf ball challenge. I don't appreciate the bait and switch, but I'm gonna let it ride.
Technicalities.
You ready?
John, ready for that.
Ready.
Stand it.
Ready.
Stand it.
Shooter ready.
Ready.
One inch above it.
Ready.
Ready.
Stand it.
Ready.
Ready.
So don't come down a quarter, aim at the bottom of the ball.
I know, man. I'm all
Stand
over
by.
it. Yep.
Ready.
Ready.
Stand it.
Yep. Inch above. John, I'm coming for you.
Look at it.
Joel, don't you hit my golf ball.
Guys, if you don't look at that level, you're talking 28 to 30 inches of error. I showed you that on film.
Ready. Goodbye.
You hit one of your same holes.
Yep. Same hole. Damn it. Ready.
All right, gentlemen, we're at about 2.5 right. Take a moment.
Ready.
That looks good. Uh-oh, 1 inch at 3.
Ready.
Ready, Tim.
Any adjustments or not?
Ready.
Thanks, sir. So they obviously take you down, you get the ball, and they give you your challenge coin. So this is the big ticket item. You get your 1,000-yard Barber Creek challenge coin. And again, we were kind of making fun of it. At the bottom, it says, it's only 1,000 yards. Don't be too proud of it.
Just 1,000 yards.
Yeah. You do that 1,500, then you guys want to talk about it.
I'll see you in level 2, son.
I was actually pleasantly
Yourself. There is a level 2 course where you shoot out much further than that, and so I told John, I made a joke with him. I was like, I'll see you on level 2, buddy. So I am definitely going back. I don't have timing on that yet. It was so worth it. And in level 2, you're almost responsible for reading the wind yourself, right? So James is obviously still there and he's helping work you through it, but it's much less hand-holding than the level 1 course is. All right, so let's get into the biggest takeaway here. Now, I made notes during this and I wrote down like 6 different things on here. So I was like, man, which one is the biggest takeaway from this? Is it spin drift? Is it parallax error? Is it the barrels that you're shooting with? Like, how important is a triple stress relief barrel, right? So that your shots don't start to walk when the barrel heats up. Is it reading the wind at max ord versus at the gun? Right? Like, I've got all these different notes, but the one biggest thing that I think influenced my ability to hit at those distances is this guy right here. So this is a scope level, all right? So this clamps on to the body, the tube of the scope, and you can see that it's got this little level in here. And there's a way that you marry this to the actual reticle in the scope. So you hang a plumb line out, you get your reticle perfectly plumb, and then you mount this to the body. This is the most important thing that I took away from this course. And this one just arrived yesterday. I ordered 6 of them to put on all of my long range or precision rifles. So here's the deal. When you are shooting out at distance, this doesn't matter probably inside 500, 600 yards. Neither does spin drift, neither does the Coriolis, the spinning of the earth, like all that. He goes through all of this stuff. Like, it's common sense, right? I didn't even think about this. When you pull that trigger, the earth is spinning at what, several hundred, a thousand miles an hour, I don't know what it is. When you pull that trigger, the target's in a certain spot. If that bullet has a 3-second trajectory, a 3-second flight time, that target has moved just due to the rotation of the earth by the time that bullet impacts. Like, he teaches you all that stuff. It's so cool. But this guy right here, if your rifle is canted even just a couple of degrees, at 1,000 yards, it drastically impacts where your bullet lands.
Guys, if you don't look at that level, you're talking 28 to 30 inches of error. I showed you that on film.
He would constantly tell us, check your level, check your level. You're hitting to the left or to the right. Your gun is not on, your level is not on, right? And sure enough, I'd open that non-shooting eye that, and the level's off. It is the most fundamental thing that I took away from this class, and you'll see it all through this footage. I'll roll some in here. I'm on target, I've got the target in my sights, I've got my wind hold, and before I pull that trigger, I open this, what is my left eye, and I look at my level, and sometimes I have to hold the shot because it was canted and this bubble's stuck up on the edge, right? And so I get it repositioned, I get my wind hold again, I check my level, break the shot, right? Hopefully the wind hasn't changed by then. This is the biggest win for me in coming out of that class. It's a game changer. So, hope you guys found this video kind of interesting. I hope you give Barber Creek a chance. It is a fantastic facility. Mark, the owner, super nice guy. I paid for all this. This is not a sponsored thing. Like, I genuinely had a blast. The lodging was fantastic. Totally, I didn't even really go into that. So there's a separate lodging building. There's a fire pit. The separate lodging building is awesome. You walk in, there's mounts on the walls, there's a TV, a beautiful bathroom and bedroom. Really, really fantastic facilities. So I'll put a link in the description below if you're interested in one of these. I will also link to one of Barber Creek's videos on how to actually set this up. So that's it, guys. If you like this video, do me a favor, give it a like down below. It helps these videos go a little bit further in the search algorithms. I appreciate your time watching as always, and I'll see you in the next one.